to Coffee at 11 with my good friend and special guest this morning, Yvonne Dolan of Blendi Snacks. Yvonne, say hi with your mug to the camera.
Hi everybody, and thank you for being so welcoming me to Morning with Colin at 11.
Looking forward to it. Let me tell you all the nice things that Yvonne wrote about herself. I always say that at the top of the show. Yvonne Dolan, business name is Blendi Snacks. What does your business do, Yvonne? Blendi Snacks produces a very similar tasting snack to a packet of nuts, except their main ingredient is a broad bean, 75% less fat and no allergens. That's quite magic. Blendi Snacks takes a broad bean and green peas and flavours them in the same traditional flavours used with nuts and crisps, i.e. garlic, onion, barbecue and salt. And folks, they are delicious. I've tried them all. How long established? Only 12 months. How many employees? 3. Yvonne Dolan, I met Yvonne many, many years ago. She reminded me it was 30 years ago, so we're not going to go there. But we met.
God, isn't that incredible?
We were both younger. And she's founder of Blendi Snacks, but this is her 4th startup in 35 years, right? 4th startup. 3 of them were successful, and the one that she's involved in today is Pivot. And then she says there's no such thing as a fail in startups. She then goes on to explain that living life happens in 7-year cycles with Yvonne. 3 times 7, age 21, she left for the States. 7 years living in the USA, 7 years living back in Ireland, 7 years living in Croatia, 7 years living in Spain, and now 4 years back in Ireland. And the real question is what's going to happen in 3 years' time, Yvonne? but before
one can dream.
Before we get there, Yvonne Dolan, over to you. You're very welcome. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Colin.
Tell us the potted history up until Blendi started. Take us through those years.
Okay. Left school. I might point out that I was in boarding school. I went to boarding school when I was very young, and I think that might have created the person I am today, because I actually went to school boarding school when I was 11. Left at 16. Went to do the secretarial course because my dad was in the bank and it was always the path for me. And then my mum and dad hoped that I would meet somebody in there, get married, have kids, pensionable, ... So I left school, I went off and I did my secretarial course, and I came in to AIIB with my, do you remember the Pitman shorthand? God. And they'd speak into dictaphones in those days, the managers of the bank, and you'd run out and you'd type your little letter. Anyway, 18 months later, I just thought, there has to be more to life. So I went in and I had a conversation with my manager, and I just said, I think I would like to leave. So he said, well, I think you should talk about that with your parents. Because long story short, about 3 months later, I found myself in New York City with a mum and dad who would not speak to me for a couple of months later. They weren't one bit happy. Anyway, stayed over in the States for about 7 years, went around all the States, bartending, had a ball. But I came back to get the Donnelly visa. And it got delayed, and I was staying with my parents, and they were just saying, look, there's another couple of months until you get the Donnelly visa. You really need to start kind of thinking about getting to do some work. So coming up to Christmas time, and I started a Christmas hamper company. 17 years later, no Donnelly visa, but a roaring Christmas hamper company, which I sold out to Bewley's, and that's where our 2 paths crossed, Colin. Funny thing about that is, as we all know, Christmas is seasonal. So I was working from October to January every year, and the rest of the year I played golf. So looking back now, I didn't realize that I was actually networking during the summer and all the orders would come in at winter time, because I was playing golf in corporate events without even thinking. I was just invited out to play golf in these very nice tournaments. What do you do? I do Christmas hampers. Oh, give us your card. And my competitors were a little bit, I think, every Christmas, how is she getting all the orders? I didn't realize that I was just networking very naturally. Isn't it hilarious?
It's amazing when you describe it like that, because they've always said golf is networking. I've never played golf in my life, but apparently it was a huge part of your life.
Yeah.
But you were playing golf for golf's sake.
It was only quite recently when I was at a networking event that it all kind of came into place. I went, God, for 17 years before networking was networking, I was doing it. Anyway, So then I opened up, I'll just speed along quickly because we'll never get to talking about what I'm doing now. So anyway, very quickly on, I opened up, I always fancied the thought of owning my own shop. Because I'm in the food business, I opened up a food and wine store in Dalkey called Rossini's. And I had that for about 3 years. I sold that on. Then I went over to Croatia on holidays for 3 or 4 days, ended up putting, now I had a year-old baby back in Dublin, and I put down a deposit on a small little fisherman's hut on my 4-day vacation. Now I wasn't wealthy, I just did it, right? Came back, grabbed Shane, my son, and said, we're going to spend some time in Croatia. So we lived on and off there for about 7 years. I ended up working there, and I came back. I suppose you could say I built up a land portfolio just outside Dubrovnik and ended up selling it 7 years later to an Israeli company. Then I grabbed Shane again, who was 7, 8, and I said, we're going to Spain. Mum would like to play a little bit of golf. So got him into the local school. Actually, do you know where he went to school? He went to school in Gibraltar, to a Loreto school, an Irish Loreto school in Gibraltar. So at the age of 7, I used to pack his little passport into his school bag, and he'd cross the border, which was actually a runway track for airplanes, hop on a little bus and up to the top of the rock for Loreto school. So he was doing that for about 3 or 4 years, and then I grabbed him again. And I said, Shane, we're going back to Cork. Mummy's going to do a Ballymaloe course. So I put him into school in Middleton for about 4 months, and I did Ballymaloe course. Came back, did a little bit of catering in Spain, and then I thought, okay, stop messing around. Let's go back to Ireland and really do something. So that was about 4 years later. And when I came back, it was actually funny because life put me into a place I had never been before. I had always hopped positively from one rock to another, and all of a sudden I'm back in Ireland and I have a blank canvas, scary blank canvas. I knew I had to come back for Shane's sake, not necessarily for my sake, and it was very much, now what am I going to do? And that is really scary when all your creativeness leaves you, and financially I wasn't in a really good place either. So my only option really was to go back and work for somebody, which scared me to death. So I kept out of that employment for quite, anyway, I went off and I did a digital marketing course, and that kind of got my confidence back, and it opened up my mind to different ideas. And I started then a couple of months later a smoothie product, Blendi smoothies.
And we'll get into that in just a minute.
Okay.
We're not letting you off the hook that easy, right?
No.
Some potted history.
I know. Don't try that at home. Warning.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure there was a master plan either. I was just listening to what went on. I think Yvonne Dolan might be a tad impulsive. Which is okay. The other word that came to mind, you're a south side Dubliner, I'm a north side Dubliner, right? And the word that came to mind was jammy, right?
Yeah. Okay. What do you mean by jammy? Give me one example of what I've told you.
You land on your feet at every hand's turn. Jammy.
Now, you see, right? I've only told you the good parts of all my 7 years. There were times, trust me, where I thought, is this illegal? I'm joking. But there are, and I said that to you before we came on to the conversation this morning. When I have good news about my business or about life, I tell my friends, and they say the exact same thing. You always land on your feet. But to land on your feet, you have to be up in the air for sometimes, twirling around.
Really well said. There's a good return. Yeah, we'll give you that one. Happy days. Fascinating story. And Shane, a young man now, leaving cert, I think you told me?
Leaving cert, yeah. So he is where he is. He is where they all are, unknown. Yeah. So, but it's life. It's just like us now. We're all in the unknown.
Yeah, it's a good place to be. I was thinking about us all sending our kids out to go to school and asking them to stand at the side of the road and be careful of the traffic. And you're sending your little kid across a border and across a runway. Be careful of the airplanes.
I know, it's hilarious.
It's unique. Listen, fascinating. All right, so bring us back. So we're at the point now where you're just about to start Blendi. Tell us about Blendi and the pivot right up until please.
Okay. Well, what I love is finding something that the world, now this sounds a little bit as if I've read it, but looking for something that the world needs, or you see something going in a direction and you try and get there before the people need it, right? The consumer needs it, for want of a better word. And that's what really drives me all the time. So going back about 5 or 6 years ago, when we get back to Ireland, I could see all the kids, you know, into convenience. Everything was, they wanted to eat good food, but in a real hurry. So I was having a look at the pot noodles section, and I'm thinking, you know, the concept is great-ish. You know, there are dried ingredients, vegetables and meat and chicken, whatever. You just add the hot water and the noodle, and all of a sudden you have something that's substantial-ish, except when you look into the ingredients, it's very high in salt and blah, blah. So I thought, I wonder if, because they're all making the smoothies, I wonder if I could make dried fruit and vegetables in a packet, you put it into a blender and rehydrate it. So I tried using dried ingredients and it didn't work. But then I came across ingredients called freeze-dried. And I suppose the best way to describe that is the little strawberries or bananas, chipped bananas that you might see on top of cereals, you know, Kellogg's with strawberries. So they're freeze-dried. They're like cardboard. So I started importing all these ingredients, spinach, beetroot, bananas, all the likes. And then I made various recipes called Blendi smoothies. So they were delicious. Went through all the acceleration groups with Enterprise Ireland, Board B, a lot of new product development, etc. But when I went to market, the ingredients tended to be quite expensive, but my biggest challenge was the education piece. The consumer really did not know what to do or what it was. Whereas I always thought if Nestle or Danone or one of the bigger brands brought it out, they could afford the education piece. So about a year and a half ago, I was thinking, you know, where do I keep on pushing? Do I keep on, you know, seeing if I can get a strategic partner to push it through with me? But in the meantime, I had some ingredients that I couldn't use in the smoothies, and they were broad beans and peas and 1 or 2 other ingredients. And I couldn't use them because they were roasted. So I put them aside, and my son Shane was bagging them and taking them into school for snacks and loving them. And then he was coming home and he was packing up more little bags for his friends. And it took me a number of weeks to actually watch this in slow motion. And I thought, something happening is here. So I sat down with Shane and I said, how much do your friends like them? He said, Mom, like most of them are vegans and most of them are just loving them. So I went into the St. Andrew's School where Shane goes and I said, can I do a pop-up and can I just give some tastings out to the kids and get some feedback? And they said, absolutely. So I had a little stand, kilos of my broad beans and peas. I'll just show you what they actually look like if I have one or two handy. So this is the snack here, but I'm going to open them up because I don't think anybody is seeing what a broad bean and pea. Can you kind of see that? Yeah. So the kids were eating away the peas and the beans in school, and I purposely did not tell them what it was. I said, try them. Do you like them? Yes, we love them. Do you know what they are? They hadn't a clue. In fact, even when I told them they were broad beans, they still were a little bit mystified. So a year and a half later, and with 1 or 2 little pivots, I went into baby kind of kids snacks and that kind of, so anyway, I landed 6 months ago with Blendi Snacks. And before Christmas, I went into all the Avokas. After Christmas, I went into food service, supplying all the vending machines. I went into Facebook and Google, a lot of the companies in the city, and just about going into schools. And then all of a sudden, our friend, Mr. COVID, arrived. Perfect
time to halt the story. That's an unbelievable journey, because you were heading down one particular route because you had decided that this was where it was going to go. In fact, you said something there, you always like to position yourself where the market will be. And it reminds me of Wayne Gretzky quote, skate to where the puck is going to be. Wayne
Oh
Gretzky,
yeah, good one.
Hall of Famer ice hockey player.
Yeah.
Where the puck's going to be. So you practice that the whole time. So you're positioning yourself and all of a sudden the market isn't quite opening up the way you thought it was.
Yeah.
And you're questioning your young son, just doing something very naturally. And you decided to follow the pivot because that's where the market is. Happy days, congratulations. And am I right in thinking you managed to leverage some of the business there recently? Is that a fair question without getting into detail?
With regard to funding?
Well, attract a strategic partner or something?
Oh, yes. Well, I'll tell you what happened. I was contacted, I'm not going to say the name, but I'll tell you what happened. I was contacted by one of the leading tennis competitions in London that happens once a year in June or July. And they pretty much nominated Blendi Snacks as to be their healthy snacks for all their tennis players this June. And that was a huge opportunity for us. Basically, they had been using nuts as a snack, but because of the allergens and in some cases they're quite high in fat, they came across the Blendi Snacks and they met up with us and said, would we supply them this summer, which was fantastic. So with that story, with a lot of traction that I was getting January and February, I met up with some investors early March who said, yes, we're in. Now they're small investors and it's a small piece, but at least it puts me on a different road. But they did say a few days later, Yvonne, you're lucky because skin of your teeth, we've no regrets. But if COVID had happened a week earlier, we perhaps would not be where we are with you, but we've no regrets, which was always very reassuring when they said that. So
that is lovely, but we're back to jammy. I have to say we're back to jammy, right?
Oh, here we go.
But skin of your teeth and well deserved. Well, you see, we create our own luck. People can look at you and say you're very lucky, but you've been out there pounding the pavements and, you know, swinging golf clubs for right? Building up your skill set. And you're very aware and you're looking at what's going on around you and you've created a wonderful product and it really is a fantastic product and I'm so happy for you that you managed to attract some strategic partners. That tennis tournament that we're talking about, that was quite important. But again, you didn't make that happen except by doing what you do constantly and consistently. And that opened up that door, it opened up the investment door, and now COVID has hit, okay? So as you say, as your partner said, look, skin of your teeth, but you are where you are now. Can you tell us how you're coping with COVID for now? Then we get into this, where you see the world is going afterwards.
The first week when the news broke, I actually could breathe because I thought now, it was a relief just in my world because now, you see, when you're a founder, there's so much pressure on being in charge of your own destiny. You have to almost show that you completely know where you are going, right? Whereas COVID now gave me an excuse to actually sit back for a couple of days and not have to be in control, which is an unusual way of looking at life. So for the first week, in fact 2 weeks, I took a breather. And I think everybody is taking a breather because you can't quickly react to something that we couldn't even prepare for. Like I was saying to you beforehand, the Brexit, we were told this is going to happen and we started preparing for it. Something worse has happened to our country. We were never told about it and we've never prepared for it. And I think we're all doing really, really well.
Yeah, I agree with you, Yvonne. When you said when it first happened, you could breathe, I actually was expecting to hear the int at the end of couldn't breathe.
Oh, yeah.
That's where my brain
okay.
intrigued to hear you say.
I know.
That's lovely,
Yeah.
You see, that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to get real people to open up about what's going on for them, really, to give other people who are listening in, whether live here this morning or at a point in the future, some solace that they're not alone.
Now, I'll tell you what, I'm just rethinking what you've said, and I'm thinking I would have said I couldn't have breathed if I had not got the investment. Aha, now there's a point I have just realized now, because I knew there was funding ahead, but seriously, a month later, I would not have been able to breathe.
No, but thank you. But again, it's honest. You know, that's what this is about. It's about just a conversation, because everybody's coming at this from a different perspective. Okay, so we've been on a roller coaster journey. Lots of highs, and like you said, there obviously some lows in there, and we are where we are now. world has changed. You've been breathing for the last couple of weeks, which is great, delighted for you. And after so many years of hard slog, that's great and well deserved. Have you any idea what is likely to happen when we come out, when the veil is lifted? What's it going to be like for Yvonne Dolan? What's it going to be like for Blendi Snacks? Do you see, skate to where the puck is going to be for us there for a moment, will you?
Okay. So pre-COVID, I was looking at strategic retail. Now, I'm using that word underlined strategic because I was not going into the supermarkets with my product. I wanted to go into premium health stores, and I also wanted to go in, which I'm in, and I also was looking at vending machines and food service, right? Even though I'm a qualified, I've got a diploma in digital marketing, I knew the online business would happen at some stage, but I just thought, oh, you know, I'll deal with that again kind of thing. I get out there with my retail. So funny enough, when the COVID hit, my food service closes down, my Avoca closes down, the vending machine closes down, the food service completely closes down. So after my week and 10 days of breathing, which gives you loads of time to let all the thoughts come in and out, I thought, well, of course, you hear it in podcasts and you hear people talking about it online. So I just thought, well, now is the perfect time to have a look at online. And I'm really excited, more excited than ever as to the opportunity online. Isn't that incredible?
It really is, Yvonne. And we've had several people come on the show over the last couple of weeks because this has been born through COVID. And each of them, not everybody, but anybody who has gone down this particular path has said that they've tried something in their business that was at the back of their head. We must do this at some point, must check this. But they were afraid to because they were afraid to upset the status quo. Now there's no status quo.
Yeah.
No status quo, and we can reinvent the world. So very exciting.
Yeah, yeah.
And is it fair to say that there's more margin in online, or is that a falsity?
Yes, there would be, but that wouldn't be the focus. The focus is the reach. Like if you think about it, we have to remind ourselves all the time, Ireland is the same size as Manchester. Sometimes we wake up in the morning and we look at Ireland as the world. We're tiny. We're a village. And to be successful, we need to get outside the island. And that really can be done. If you have a product that travels, that can be done online.
I was having that very same conversation with Princess Shelley, as it happens this morning. We're talking to Princess Shelley later. Exactly that same product. That I've got that same idea that we got to figure out a way of reaching beyond our shores, and online clearly.
Yeah.
Allow us to. This medium, Zoom, you know, this started 3 weeks ago tomorrow with just an idea. Wouldn't it be nice if we could have a cup of coffee and a chat and invite people to Earwig? So
I was thinking about that because you wouldn't have been doing this without COVID. You'd be back in, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, I'm delighted.
I'm sure everybody has their own story about we wouldn't be doing what we're doing except for the situation that we're in. So it's a blessing in disguise, you know, and I know there is a lot of hardship and there's a lot of sadness around, but there's a lot of people who will be reluctant to go back to what they were doing because they're actually in a good place now.
Liam Burke is on with us this morning. Liam was our guest on yesterday. Hey, Liam. Liam has huge business in the States. Actually, Liam and Yvonne need to have a conversation for sure.
Okay.
Liam has huge business in, he's a professional bespoke tour guide here in Ireland. But he basically said that, you know, we're never going to see another pandemic. So if we can, let's enjoy this one. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. And then clearly, you're right, there are people out there suffering terribly, and our hearts and our prayers go too. Yeah. But for those of us that can, who've been forced into lockdown, to let the grey matter, you know, just rumble around, see what comes out, I think it can be a positive time. But part of this, I'm delighted to have you on this morning, Yvonne, is to give people ideas and to give people permission to breathe and give people permission to think up new ideas and try new stuff. What's the worst that can happen?
But you know what? We're in a period of time that you have permission. And prior to this situation, we were all, and I'll say for myself as well, afraid to take these steps. What would everybody think? As you say, you're upsetting the apple cart. Everything is going hunky-dory. So people will kind of laugh at us if we do something quite extraordinary. But I think everybody has permission and a license to do things that they haven't done before, they've always wanted to, or they want to try. And I think if people will applaud you for that. because you can say, oh, you know, it was the time I had on my hands during COVID. And it gives you, if you want, a reason, and I'm not going to use the word fail, but to try something and correct it and correct it and correct it.
Yeah, to experiment.
Yeah, to experiment.
Yeah. Lovely, absolutely lovely, Yvonne. Thank you for being so honest. We're going to go Q&A from the floor in just a minute, Yvonne, but before we do, ask you please, if you wouldn't mind, give us all one tip. What would you say to your nearest and dearest who's come and said, I'm not quite sure where I am with COVID. What should I do for the next 3 weeks, 3 months? How long it's going to last? What would you say, Yvonne?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to give advice to somebody, but I'll tell you what I did a couple of days ago. And anybody who, and I'll tell you what I did. I ordered a half a ton of soil, topsoil, and I'm going to make my own vegetable garden. Now, I know a lot of people are thinking if you have space in the garden to do that, but why not?
Wait, you had a pause there. I ordered half a ton. I was waiting to see.
I know, and I was just seeing the look on your face kind of changing, thinking, I hope this is going to be okay, whatever she's going to say.
It was broad beans, peas, flavouring.
Topsoil. Topsoil. Well, the only advice I'd say to everybody is get your topsoil.
So I suppose we can translate that into get out into nature and do something.
Yeah.
Fair enough, yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You're not selling topsoil by the half ton or anything like that. You don't.
No. But here's another point. Has anybody noticed that in the months of January and February, it just so happened that most weekends on a Thursday to a Monday, it lashed, it stormed, there was winds breaking down fences. March and April so far, for the last 7 weeks, it's just been glorious, hasn't it? Anyway.
It's the time. Yvonne, we're going to invite people on the floor to ask you some questions. Princess Shelley, you are live.
Hi, Shelley.
Hi, Yvonne. Thank you for your interview. It's great. I have actually, it's not really a question. It's other than permission, really. I love, in order to land on your feet, you must first be up in the air. It's just permission to use that I'm looking for, because if there was anything that resonated with me so much, it appeals to me on all fibres of me, and I think it's just, that'll be my takeaway from today, because I love it. So permission to use that.
Oh, absolutely. It's just, absolutely.
I'm on your site now and it's brilliant. So I have 2 computers in front of me, so I'm looking at it. So you might be shipping to me soon. But yeah, if it's okay with you, Yvonne.
Yeah, absolutely.
Use that in order to land on your feet, because it's just resonates with every part of me. I love it. Thank you very much for it.
There's no royalty attached to that.
Not at all, no.
Thank you, Michelle. Sarah Ward.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi, good morning.
Good. Yeah, I'd love to use that as well, because it's fantastic. It's something that it really gets a good visual going, you know, when you say something like that. So I'd love to use that as well. My other question was, I just wanted to know where did you get your earth? I've been trying to get earth for a while now, because I have beds out the back that I've actually tried to fill, but I've no earth.
Well, if you just Google garden centres, most of them, actually, well, I live in Dunleary, so I Googled the patio centre in Cabinteely.
Right, garden centres, basically.
Yeah, so mind you, most of them are closed for obvious reasons. But you'll find it. They'll deliver either a half a ton or a ton. So I got 1 or 2 of my neighbours. I convinced them to do a garden.
Yeah, because I was trying to, my sister-in-law gave me a buzz and said she had a load of, I suppose, cuttings and stuff, and she had like herbs and lettuce and all the rest.
Yeah.
And I said, for love nor money, my husband can't find earth, even bags of it. And she said, if you can get small tomato bags even.
In Lidl's, I saw them all in Lidl's yesterday.
Yeah, he couldn't get down here. Now we're in Limerick, so he couldn't find them. So basically, we couldn't get them. Yeah, so that was my first thing. The other thing I wanted to ask you was, how come you don't go into supermarkets with your goods?
If you have a product, don't go where everybody else is going, because you'll get lost.
Okay.
Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, I've been in the food business for many years, and I can't, out of 40 or 50 products I've seen going on the supermarket shelves with startups, Irish startups in the last 4 or 5 years. I can pick out a handful who've survived. You have to create, now, okay, if you're going in with a product, as I call it, me too, like let's say you came up with a peanut butter or a jam that's already out there. Yes, you could pop in beside the other jams, but my products tend to be just a little bit different. And if I go into the supermarkets, nobody knows what I am. So I have to create my brand, my personality, noise elsewhere.
Very good. I'd be interested in trying it.
Yeah, I actually, what we're doing is I'll explain to you about our jumbo pouch and our little tube.
Okay.
So basically, it's a month's supply. Well, you can buy smaller packs, obviously, but what we're doing is a jumbo pouch for all the family, and it cuts down on all the packaging. It cuts down on the price. So that's my biggest seller is I sell the jumbo pouches, and you get about 35 snacks in each of the jumbo pouches, and it works out at maybe 50 or 60 cents as opposed to €2 for the snacks. So.
Perfect. Yeah, I'd love that. Yeah, because I would be plant-based as well in my eating.
Ah, okay.
Great, great question, Sarah, and great response there, Yvonne. And Yvonne, what's the website that people can go and buy the stuff at?
BlendiSnacks.com.
BLENDI
Snacks.
Snacks.com. Mm-hmm. Check it out there, folks. And by the way, Sarah, Princess Shelley came in and said there's a garden centre in Ennis delivering topsoil too. So there you go.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
I'll ask you one then, if I may, Yvonne, before we let you go. And thank you for coming on Coffee at 11 this morning. And that really is, you're clearly an entrepreneur. Maybe you didn't know that when you started out all those years ago in the bank, but you clearly have demonstrated that you are an entrepreneur. So what are the characteristics of an entrepreneur?
You know, you're often being asked, are they born? Are they made? Do you become one? You know, and I don't think anybody really has an answer. I started off, I would define my background. Well, I don't know if I was born, but I would define me being at boarding school definitely gave me that independence of being self-sufficient. And then when I came out, I just felt I wanted the power to always be sufficient, for want of a better word. But if I was describing how I am being an entrepreneur now, it's almost been like an addict, right? Or a gambler, and you're the horse, and you're always putting money on the race. And sometimes you win, and sometimes you lose, and sometimes you just get beaten. But it is, and it's a race that you run in, and it's an adrenaline rush to see if you can win the race. And honestly, it's an addiction. It really is an addiction.
It's interesting to hear you describe it like that, because you and I caught up for coffee there recently in Dublin, and you said, and you caught me by surprise, you said drink, drugs and entrepreneurship.
Yeah, it's a good addiction, but you have to be able to feel the hurt and the pain and live it and live through it, and just know around the corner it will get better.
Yeah. Interesting. Yvonne Dolan, it's been an absolute pleasure connecting with you on Coffee at 11. I'm sure everybody in the audience would say the same. So I'm going to ask them to give you our usual deaf community clap. I wish you will, because they're all muted.
That was fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Been an absolute pleasure. Before I let you all go, though, I'd like to tell you that our special guest tomorrow will be, in fact, the one and only Princess Shelley. If you want to find out why Princess Shelley is called Princess Shelley, well, you got to be here at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Rich tapestry of a business history there that you want to find out all about. And in particular, want to find out where the moniker came from, Princess Shelley. So looking forward to that, Princess Shelley. See you tomorrow at 11 o'clock. And once again, Yvonne Dolan, we wish you every success, yourself and Shane, with Blendi Snacks. It's going to be a roaring success. Namaste.
Thanks, Tom. Cheers. Bye.